just some minor repairs and changes made to a recently purchased 53-year-old Revolver. Well, the first thing I decided to do with the gun is get rid of those huge grips. They were actually comfortable for me. I have relatively large hands, but they were just way too big for this gun with that little pencil barrel and all. They just looked too odd, which may not be the best reason for swapping them out, but it's what I'm doing. So I took those off. Fortunately, when you've been shooting Smith Wesson revolvers as long as I have, stuff piles up over the years, so I've got other grips here. Haven't yet decided which ones I'm going to put on it. But while I had the grips off, I figured I'd take it apart and check out the lock work. And that's when I noticed the crane screw, or yoke screw, as Smith Wesson calls them. He's boogered up. That goes back to something I noticed earlier, but didn't realize the full implications. The cylinder on this gun has been swapped out. That is not the cylinder that came with it from the factory. You can tell because Smith & Wesson puts their serial number in two places. They put one there. Normally I wouldn't show a serial number, but that's not the gun's serial number. That's the gun this cylinder came off of. So you can see that one starts with a D57. And this one, the actual one that's on the frame itself, starts with D54. So that told me the cylinder had been swapped, which is not really a problem. But whoever swapped it messed up the yoke screw. And not just the cosmetic burring of it there. They actually broke it. So when I turned it just a 1/16 of an inch, it let the cylinder come completely out, which you should have to remove the screw for that to happen. So I'll pull it out here. You can see what happened. Finished taking it out. Okay, I put it here next to a new one that I had to order online. You can see on the left is the screw I pulled out of the gun, and the right is a new screw. The heads are slightly different. Smith & Wesson switched from the flat head to the dome head on the new one back in not too long ago. Well, it's been a while, 80s, so I guess that's a while ago. But they did that 30, 40 years ago. But you can see the end of the screw should have that unthreaded portion, and that is what fits in the groove right there on the crane, on the yoke, to hold it in place. And that is completely gone, physically gone from the screw. And when it was torqued down extremely hard, it was just barely long enough to hold it in. So I'm going to swap it out for the correct screw there. Put them back on. And assuming everything's good, I'll go back and put some Loctite on it after. But see, he's not coming out now. What a concept. So we got that fixed up. Everything else looks good. I just need to decide what grips to put on it. I'll probably put some plain old regular scale grips, like these fake ivory ones, or some old fake. I got some wooden ones too. I mean, they're not in that bag. I'll search around and find them. But I'll probably just use the small panels like that, with maybe with an old Tyler T-grip adapter, if I have one of those laying around. But we'll get him finished up and try him out. He's all good and happy now. And just for what it's worth, I'm at least the 4th owner of this gun. I know the person I got it from, and I know the person that they got it from, and neither one of them would be the type to swap out a cylinder. I really suspect this was originally a police issue gun, or maybe military police, or some large agency or organization that would do that kind of thing, swap out the cylinders, you know, cannibalizing one gun for another. And I know the 2 people that owned it before me wouldn't be doing that. So that tells me I'm at least the 4th owner. The gun was made in either 1970 or 71. You can tell by the serial number on the frame, and also you can see it's model 64. There would later be 64-1, 64-2, all the way up through, I believe, 64-6 or 8. This gun, this model was introduced in 1970, and they came out in mid-1971 with the 64-1. So that tells me it was made in either 1970 or 71. So it's 53 or 54 years old and in stunning shape for its age. Based on the serial number on the yoke, that tells me the age of the cylinder, and it's within a year of the gun itself, so they're both about the same age. But for being more than a half century old, yeah, I love the homemade paint there. It is not scuffed much at all. That's one of the nice things about stainless. It hides a bunch of things you would see on a blue gun. But for a gun that's over a half a century old, has had at least 4 owners, it's in good shape. I haven't even cleaned it yet. You can see it's kind of, well, it doesn't show up great on camera, but it's kind of gunky right in there. But I'll get him cleaned up, get him tried out, and I may chamfer the cylinders. I haven't made up my mind yet. I toyed with the idea of sending it off to TK Custom and getting them cut for moon clips, but that seems a bit much for a gun that's this old. I may or may not chamfer the cylinders just to make it a little smoother with speed loaders. I doubt I'll do the whole moon clip thing. That's a bit much for this, for as inexpensive a gun as this is. But let me decide what grips to put on it, put the T-grip on it, and get things moving along on it. Okay, next, I want to take a look at the insides of the gun. I've got the screws taken out. Let's go ahead and remove the cylinder. Come on. I like doing things the simple and easy way, just an old paint tray liner. Works great for this kind of thing when you're going to be spraying nasty stuff, like powder blast. Got some wear, but not bad. Little cleaning and lubing. I don't lose anything out of here. Is a little gummy. Not bad, but considering he's been largely neglected for his 50-plus year life, that's not bad. A little cleaning up with some powder blast. I like lots of light when I'm working. And you have to be careful with little things like this because it is real easy to lose a spring or pin or something in the process. You know, he's not bad at all. Just a touch of cleaning. I think I'm going to put him back together after I lube him up and let him go. I was looking to see if the springs appear worn. They have a lot of age on them, but they still feel pretty good and they don't look bad. So we'll just get him put back together. Let me lube him up a hair. You have to be careful with powder blast if it gets on something non-metallic. Some polymers and plastics respond poorly to it. Get dry, brittle, discolored. But for steel, especially stainless steel, it's pretty good stuff. This is regular old break-free. You can't tell by the bottle, it's so old. I actually refill these little bottles from the gallon jug. And this is not the premium way of doing this. What I'm planning on doing, I'm going to run it a little bit, and I may give it the old 1960s, 1970s trigger job afterwards, if anybody remembers those days. It was pretty common to give a Smith Wesson revolver a polish job, basically by removing all the lube and gunk and filling all the nooks and crannies and covering all the little bearing surfaces with plain old gritty white toothpaste. Close it up and run it, and run it, and run it, and run it, and it would act like an incredibly fine abrasive and give you some really glass smooth results. I'm sorry, I will probably do that with this after I run it a little bit, so I'm not too worried about getting him lubed perfectly at this stage. And I did chamfer the chambers just a little bit, not a ton. You can see it there, just with the Brownell's chamfering tool. That's a nice thing about being old. You got all this old junk laying around. But you can see I chamfered them just, not a 32nd of an inch. Hey girl, can I help you? I'm sorry, am I in your way? Okay, well, sorry girl. Let me get my revolver put back together. I'm sorry. And I will get out of your space, okay? Okay. Well, let me turn the camera off and get out of baby girl's way. And I'll get it back on here in a bit. Okay, well, the cat decided to give me back the space. So he's all closed up. The cylinder is back on. I will dig through my grips, decide what to put on him, and then maybe run him a little bit and see how he does. Like I said, afterwards, I will probably do the toothpaste thing inside here, so I'm not Loctiting these guys yet, but that is something you want to do in the long run. Well, got him finished up. I went with dark scale, simple grips. I didn't have a Tyler T-grip adapter. That's an off-brand, a BK or KB, but it's what I had, so. The grip's a little small for me, but aesthetically I like it. It doesn't look nearly as dorky as that huge grip. So, let's start here, I don't know, 12 yards. We'll start on the 12-inch circle toward the left of the rack. Pulled one. Wasn't paying attention. I may do one more cylinder full, but that is the extent of what he looks like. If you can see the chamfered chambers there. I did get rid of that paint that ran down the length of the ramp and just put a little bit at the top. But really not necessary, but I wanted something there just for contrast. My eyes are not what they used to be. Running it all the way down is actually a bad thing. You should not see that much of the ramp. If you're looking at it and you see that much of the ramp, you are shooting way high. If they're regulated, you shouldn't see any more than the very tip of the front blade. So let's load them up one more time. Get my ears on and try them again. used to those grips. Yeah. If you can make that out. Some of those empties there. See, that's a WCC. It's a WCC 83 right here. Lake City 79. If you're wondering how long you can reuse brass, especially in a low pressure round like 38 Special. The ones marked WCC 83 were part of a batch I got several 5-gallon buckets of back when we lived in Texas. I don't remember exactly when I got them, but we left Texas in '93. So I'm still using them 30 plus years later. Appreciate it, and think I'm gonna like it, such as it is.